So tonight I'm going to take this transmission apart and change the shift rod in it. So this is a project that I'm honestly a little bit intimidated by because I haven't spent a lot of time going inside of transmissions. I've installed lots of them in different cars. This is an 87 AOD that's going in my 54 Country Squire here. I'm actually very comfortable putting a 35-year-old transmission in a 70-year-old car. More comfortable than taking this transmission apart and playing around with what's inside, because I don't really understand all the magic that goes on inside one of these. But I've read the instructions and I'm pretty confident I know what I'm doing. And if it turns out I don't, I can phone a friend and I get a couple of buddies that'll come over and help me. What I noticed though when I was trying to figure out how to do this is there's not a lot of videos online about this and not very many concise ones. So, you know, if you want to watch an hour and a half of someone rebuilding a whole transmission, you might find that. So I'm going to try and keep this quick and show you what I'm going to do. I'm not telling you this is the right way to do it. I'm going to tell you this is my way to do it, and I'll follow up. You'll see this car on the road soon, hopefully with this thing working, you know. So I bought this kit here. This is to connect an AOD to a column shifter, but I have to go inside the transmission to install this part right here. So the issue I've got is this shift rod here, and this is what would connect in this case onto the floor shifter when this was in a Mustang, and it's actually pointed down, which is what I need. These can point either down or they can point up. The problem I'm going to have is when I connect this to the 54 Ford column shifter, this distance here I can almost promise myself will not be correct. Also, it's not quite in the right orientation pointing down. That's parked there. It needs to be a little bit more forward so that I can get into all of the gears. Because when it goes all the way back, it's actually starting to come back up on its sweep. So the kit comes with this piece, which replaces the one that's in the transmission. And then I can orient this kind of whatever direction that I want. But what I'm doing tonight would also work if you bought a transmission at the junkyard and you need this to point up instead of down. Do the same sort of thing. You can do this with it in the car. I'm doing it out of the car because it's easier. I'm going to be able to actually flip the transmission on its side. Transmission is drained, but there's always going to be a little bit of fluid in it. So let's pull the pan off and see what we're dealing with. So the first thing to do is to take the nut and this lever off. This is for the TV cable. That one's actually going to change as well. Now with the pan off, I can take the filter off, and this is what I'm changing, is this rod right here. It goes all the way in there. This filter comes off with two 8mm bolts. This is a great time to change your filter if it's got any age on it. And you don't have to take the valve body off to do this, which is good. When I was reading the instructions, I looked at what tools I needed to do this. Make sure that little seal or O-ring stays in there. There's a gasket there. It stayed on the transmission, so we'll call that okay. When you look at the tools that you need to do something, that'll help you to tell how complicated it is. This only requires a few basic hand tools, so it's not too bad. So the next step is to take off this tensioner, and this is the thing that holds it in the various positions. Keep that together. So next I have to take this nut. It won't come all the way off because of this bracket here, but that's got to come off. If I can get a wrench that goes in there. And this is just going to move, so I'm going to take another wrench, hold it steady. There we go. Now there's a little roll pin here, and that goes in a slot, just like on this one, that slot, and that's what keeps it from coming in and out. So you can see there's a nut, it's gonna go on here, that goes on there. So, I'll take a pair of side cutters and gently pull on this. Let's come all the way out. Let's not lose that. And now this can come right out. Just like that. Now, if all you wanted to do is turn this over, you just slide it right back in. So here's our new one ready to go in. And there's transmission fluid right here that's come out of that filter. So I'm gonna put a little bit on here just to lubricate this to slide in, because it does have to go through a rubber seal. And this rod that's still in there, that's for the throttle valve cable. So that stays there. Aha. So now I just have to get everything back where it went. So this will slide on there. Go. That's locked in there. It has to go in a little farther. So the nut's snugged up. There we go. So how I know this is all together and where it should be is right there. That still moves that main valve. That's very important. That's park. That's all the way down and drive. And my throttle valve, when I move my throttle valve cable, that is still working. So those are kind of the two things that I got to get right on this for it to work. Now there's a little spring that popped off down here, and that has to flip around on there, and that keeps tension on this throttle valve all the time so that it can return. That's all that does. So now I can tighten this nut up again. And put my roll pin back in. I need something to tap that in with. Okay, that's in. This all works. Put this tensioner back on. And that's it. Now I've got a shifter that I can adjust so it'll work with my column. I can point it in whatever direction I need it to be in. Awesome. That was way easier than I expected. I'm really glad this seems to have worked out. I think this transmission is going to work great in this car. So if you want to see this once it's in the car and going down the road, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that. And if you enjoyed watching this video, give us a like. We'll see you next time in the garage.